So I just got this new log splitter for my tractor, and my tractor has a very weak hydraulic system. It's about 4.2 gallons per minute at peak RPM, and this thing recommends 8 to 12 gallons per minute. So I'm replacing this Harbor Freight splitter, which my wife got me for a present a few years ago, and it's been a great splitter. I've used it a lot, but the issues with it is it's quite large. It's another gasoline engine to take care of, and recently the ram actually broke, and it's something you can't fix yourself. It's both of the hydraulic lines go in through the end, and it actually goes through the inside, and if you need to replace any seals, you're basically out of luck. So I did replace the ram, and I'm going to go ahead and sell this. So before I bought this, I actually did do some research, and there is a way to speed up the ram speed on here. You have to replace the valve with one that's specifically made for a log splitter, and I'll share the part number of that valve. It's really the only one I can find like it. So it's going to take a little bit of modification to get it to fit in there. It's a little bit different size, and it's different orientation, and so we'll get that in there, and then we'll time it with the old and the new, the slow and the fast speed, and then we'll compare that to the Harbor Freight one over here. Alright, I got the cover off this valve just so you can see basically how it works. Basically there's an inlet that comes from the pump and an outlet that goes back to the pump. There's always fluid going through here, and then when you pull the handle here, it'll send fluid either through here or in this way, and then that'll make the cylinder move. So what we need to do is we need to get adapters to fit all these fittings that are already on here, and then this is the valve we're going to be replacing it with. This is from Prince Hydraulics. It's a what is this, LSR 3000, specifically made for this application, which is wood splitters with weak hydraulics. So I already kind of loosened the valves here. These are going to replace, which go to the cylinder, and then this is the inlet and outlet. It's already got some fluid in it apparently, and it's going to be a little bit of fabrication here to get this to mount up and so everything can be reused. But that's part of just owning a tractor, is having to do stuff like this, and it won't be too hard. The hard part's going to be getting this plate back on. This plate has this lever on it, which it's a very handy feature where when you put the handle back, it sticks in the detent there, and then the splitter will just keep going back, and then this is designed so that the splitter hits this and pops it back out of that detent. So that's a nice feature to have. It's going to take a little bit of finagling to get it to work with a new valve. So to get the valve, the right fittings, I'll take them off in a second here, but this is very helpful. This is a hydraulic fitting measurer. So these are all standard fittings. So we're going to go ahead and take these fittings off and find out what we need to match up. Oh my gosh, that's never good. So these are, this is O-ring face right here, where there's an O-ring right in the middle of the fitting. This is also another O-ring face. These are all O-ring face. So going to the cables all seem to be an O-ring face fitting. If you look on the other side, there's no O-ring there. So it's just meant to stick on that mating surface right there and prevent leaks. And then over here, this is an O-ring boss, so it's a straight thread, and the O-ring goes right there. This is also O-ring boss on this side. So on the new valve, I've already taken these out and measured these, but these are NPT pipe thread, and the way you can tell is the thread tapers in as you go further away. So I already got all the fittings picked out here to match these up. So this is like an NPT to O-ring boss for here, and we have a these are the inlets and outlets. They already have their fittings in, and then we have another NPT to right angle for this guy right here, which will go right here. So for NPTs, you do want to use, it's a good idea to use Teflon tape. You gotta be very careful when using Teflon though, because Teflon will wreak havoc in a hydraulic system. So you want to be very careful that you don't have it facing over the cable, which I'll show in a second here. Oops. Now I'm just putting this fitting on right here to get it just held in place since I don't have a helper here. We'll get the Teflon. So I put the Teflon tape well behind the end of the fitting, or I guess the face, just so there's no chance of any Teflon getting in here. Very, very bad for the hydraulics if that happens. And typically, you know, these threads are going to be a little bit more well controlled than something like a Home Depot pipe or something for plumbing. So sometimes, I mean, there'll be people that tell you don't even need tape, and that might even be true. But we'll just do it. We'll do it the correct way here to be safe. All right. Well, I got all the fittings on here. I just put it in a vise and tightened it all on in the right orientation. I think I see our first problem here, and that explains this fitting. See how long this is. If I put this on here to screw it on, this is going to be hitting here. So we'll see here. We'll see how much of a problem this is. You might have to either get an adapter or take some of the stuff off to get this thing tight. And it's already hitting there, so we have a problem. Now what's going on here is this catch right here is hitting right here. So that next problem here is this handle is meant to be mounted this way, like so. There's a mount point right here for this. So fortunately we can rotate this, but we're going to need to find a new mount point for it. And the reason we want it this way is so it works with the detent stop, so it actually stops by itself. So I need to think about this for a couple minutes here, see what we can come up with. Alright, back in the shop here, I got it in the vise. Now I do have better tools I could cut this out with, but you know what, an angle grinder is going to be good enough. The reason I'm modifying this instead of like creating a bracket or modifying the other bracket, this is, I mean, I might eventually, this might not work out, and I want to be able to sell the splitter. So that's why I'm doing it. Now you might not have an angle grinder. You might be saying this is too hard to do. I'm freehanding this. You can get an angle grinder at Harbor Freight for about 20-30 bucks. All right, anyway, let's go ahead and start cutting here. I'm gonna get my center line set, which is gonna be more in. Yeah, I think that'll work. Alright, now I'm going to kind of cut in from the sides here. Oh, there we go. Look at that. So if I look at this, I can see it's binding up right here, and it's fine there. So it's just binding up here. So instead of cutting into this more, I'm going to notch this bracket because it's not binding up on this side. I just need to notch this side, and I do not want to cut any deeper into this housing because I might be actually cutting into where the actual fluid and all that stuff is. So the one other thing I need to do too, this hole is so much bigger, I'm gonna need a bushing that this can go through. I'm gonna make a bushing out of nylon since it's easier to work with. And if it does fall apart, I can always just switch over to a brass one. Okay, final assembly here. This pin goes in here. And then I should have put washers on this side, but I think it'll be fine without them. That nylon's pretty strong, and this doesn't really have much force put on it. Guess we'll find out though, right? We can always fix it later. So let's see here, is it rubbing? That's the detent where it goes back, and then the thing's supposed to pop it out. Is that right? Yeah, it comes back and hits it. No hitting, I think we're good. All right, I got it back on the tractor here. We got another problem though. So basically, when the ram comes back, it's supposed to push this back, which knocks it out of detent. But the detent's actually this way. This valve is reversed from the other valve. So we're gonna end up having to modify this to have it. It needs to just basically come straight back from here. And it might be easy just to weld the bar right here, but then that might interfere with other stuff. I don't think I want to do that. But anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and get it all hooked up and plumbed and just make sure that this actually works good enough, or fast enough, I guess, so it's worth doing. Alright, well, I'm really glad I tried it out on here because I learned two things. One, when you put it into detent to come back, it actually pops itself out. So, let me get this back in here. Get in there. So, I can just go ahead and remove this bracket because I do not need it. This valve pops itself out. When you put it in, it'll just pop itself out. The second thing is, this right here is hitting. So there's two stages to this valve. I pull it, and that's like the normal 20-ton full hydraulic system. But then there's like a little detent also here, and if you can pull it even further, it goes. And you saw how fast it went, which is what we want. So it tells me two things. One, I don't have to worry about I don't have to mess around with the detent stop. And two, I just need to fix this, and I think we're in business. I mean, that thing was moving fast. Bad geometry. Alright, we got reverse, single, normal mode, fast mode. I think we're good, finally. Okay, it's all back together. One thing I didn't do is I didn't put a bolt through here. So if this thing starts moving, I'll add that. But I might have to do other tweaks too, so I'll just hold off on that for now. Put a couple zip ties on the hydraulic lines. When this whole arm folds up, straight up, and it needs a lot of slack in the hydraulic lines for that to work. But anyway, let's go ahead and do the speed test. So we'll do forward normal mode and then forward fast mode. And we'll do it for idle 1,000 RPM and 2,000 RPM. And then we will also compare that to the Harbor Freight over here. And we'll do a low and a fast speed on the motor for that one so you get an idea. This one's pretty fast, but the stroke's also a little bit shorter. I need to measure that stroke so I know what it is. So obviously that's a lot of speed at the higher RPMs especially, but there is a trick to using it, I think. I think you're gonna have to go fast until right when you get to the wood, that's needing about an inch of actual power for it to split if it's seasoned wood. And then, so you gotta go slow for that part. So you're gonna go fast, and then you go slow right when you hit the wood, and then you go fast again to go all the way through it if you need to. We got some good solid Madrona there, nice hardwood. I'm gonna run it at 1,000 RPM just because it's a nice speed. It's not gonna eat up a bunch of gas, and it seemed to move fast enough. So let's give this a shot. definitely a different experience using this thing. You have to really, it's actually nice when you go fast and then you'll hear it stall out, and then you come back, and then you can keep trying to go faster, and you'll know when you're through the heart of it. It's just a different experience to use. It'll take a little bit of practice to get used to it. Really, the only downside is the reverse stroke. That takes so long. So it's really a matter of stopping it as early as possible and sending it back when it's in the detent, so you can put a new log on. So I think overall, though, this thing is pretty nice. I'm going to go ahead and keep this and use this as a splitter. Yeah, it's going to take a little bit of practice, but I think overall this was pretty nice. So anyway, that is the end. Thank you for watching.